This is Josh Wood's Genesis Podcast. My hope is that this will help you connect in new ways with the God of the Bible as it helps me study, process, and think out loud. Thanks so much for listening. Let's go. Genesis chapter 18. Genesis 18 contains one of the first theological discussions between God and man. Abraham starts out with a feeling of injustice, which is interesting in and of itself. Theologically speaking, the Bible has thus far established that there is one eternal, all-powerful God, creator of the universe and everything in it. Ergo, God makes the rules. If he had decided that people with brown eyes had to be the servants of those with blue eyes, or be smote from the earth altogether, that would really stink, but you can't argue with an eternal God. You could, but what would be the point? In the words of Vernon McGee, this is God's universe, and God does things his way. You may have a better way, but you don't have a universe. Let's jump to God and Abraham's conversation. I'll pick it up in verse 20. Then the Lord said, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great and their sin so grievous that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know." The men turned away and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Then Abraham approached him and said, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right?" Genesis 18:20-25, NIV. Abraham's sort of saying, "Hey God, I know you're God, but something just isn't sitting right with me. I don't get it. It doesn't really feel right that you would kill innocent people because of the badness of other people. Would you really do that?" You can sense the wheels turning in Abraham's head. How does this all work, theologically speaking? Does God punish people for the sins of others? And does God save people due to the righteousness of others? For the sake of my family, I've got to know. Let's take a quick sidebar on verse 23 and 24. Here Abraham asks God, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of 50 righteous people in it?" Genesis 18:23-24, NIV. Suppose God had answered Abraham as follows. "Yep, I'm angry. There may be some good people there, but their entire society is all kinds of messed up. Actually, Abraham, you go kill them all. I'm busy right now." Abraham would somehow have to come to grips with the fact that not only was his sense of justice wrong, but so was his understanding of who God is. That would be just about the worst realization you could have as a human. A sinners in the hand of an angry God type scenario. Thankfully, "yup" isn't God's answer. He lets Abraham in on a very interesting insight into his character, as well as to theology as a whole. God answers in verse 26. "If I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake." Genesis 18:26, NIV. Abraham just discovered that the doctrine of substitutionary atonement is a thing. So the righteousness of some can atone for the unrighteousness of others. Interesting. Again, you can sense the wheels turning in Abraham's mind. Interesting. So, God will spare bad people for the sake of good people. I wonder what God's number is. How many good save how many bad? Abraham presses on. "Okay, God, so how much goodness, or how many good people, does it take to prevent the smiting of an entire town? Is this a simple majority situation? 51%? If so, does a certain degree of righteousness matter? In other words, what if some of the righteous people are really great people, and others are pretty good folks who attend church on Sundays and donate a little bit of money to charity?" From there on out, Abraham tries to settle in on the level of righteousness needed to save the town. It's really not so different than the inner feeling we all have today about the town we care about most, the town of me. How much goodness in me will save me? 50 good deeds? What if I'm sort of an arrogant jerk a lot of the time? but I attend church on Sundays and give money to the poor. Is that enough to save me? Abraham continues his theological discussion with God. 50 righteous people? What about 45? Yes? Okay. How about 40? 30? 20? Then, in verse 32, he stops at 10, which is sort of weird because we can all see where this thing is going. I think he stops because old Abraham can see where this is going too. Would God save the entire town for the sake of one? Just one? I've heard lots of theories on why he stopped his haggling questioning at 10 righteous people. Obviously, we don't know for sure, but here's the theory I tend to agree with. Abraham stopped because he realized that the fate of the town was going to rest on that number one. In God's economics, it only takes one righteous to save all the unrighteous. In other words, Abraham realized that God's number was one, and that the fate of Sodom might very well rest on one, his nephew, Lot. If Lot was righteous, the town would be saved. If not, it would be destroyed. Abraham didn't want to go there. He may have been thinking, what if I was in the city? Would I be considered righteous enough that God would save the city because of me? Again, this is all total supposition. But perhaps these were a few thoughts that were running through Abraham's head. Back to the logical conclusion, and it's ultimately a question of utmost importance for the whole of human existence. What if it wasn't just a sinful town, but a sinful state, and sinful country and sinful world? Would God spare a whole world of unrighteous people if there was only one righteous person in it? Would God save the world for just one? From this point on, the Bible answers that question unequivocally and beautifully. Yes, for the sake of one, he will save it. Because of one, he will save it. But it has to be the right one. Truly righteous, truly blameless, truly perfect, and, just as he foreshadows 4 chapters later in Genesis 22, God will himself provide the perfect one, the perfect sacrifice. So the ultimate answer to that inner question we all have, how much goodness in me will save me? How many good deeds must I do to outweigh the bad? The answer is none. With all the rhetoric about doing enough to convince St. Peter at the pearly gates to let us in, that just isn't how things work theologically. In fact, that's one of the core beliefs that sets Christians apart from other religions. In Islam, your good deeds must outweigh your bad deeds. In Buddhism, you must essentially figure out some complex mental puzzle to discover reality and escape the confines of this world. In Christianity, the work of salvation doesn't depend on our physical, mental, or emotional ability, only our acceptance of a gift. We do not have the capacity to save ourselves by our own goodness, and that's the best news ever, because it means the weight of our salvation is removed from us and placed somewhere else, on someone else. When Judgment Day comes, and the Bible promises us that it will come for all of us, we will not be rewarded with an eternity with our Creator based on our own merit. God's number is, in fact, one righteous, one perfect sacrifice to redeem all of humanity. I'm not it, neither are you. Jesus is, and his work is done.
Yeah, 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 yo, Genesis 18, let's set the scene. Abraham's talking to the King Supreme, feeling that injustice deep in his soul. One God, all power, running the show. Sodom and Gomorrah, the outcry's loud. Sin so heavy, it's drawing a crowd. God says, I'll check and see what's real. Abraham steps up, got appeal. Will you sweep the good with the bad, no lie? 50 righteous where they live or die. God's like, chill fam, I'll spare the town. For the righteous few, I won't burn it down. Substitution, yo, the truth unfolds. One can save the many, that's how it rolls. Abe's like, hold up, let's break it down. What's the number to save this town? 50, 45, drop to 10. Theological question spinning again. Does it take a crew or just one to win? Lot in the mix, fam, on the line. Righteous count dropping, but God's design points to the one, perfect divine. From Sodom to the world, the stakes get high. One righteous left, will we all fry? Abe stops at 10, but he knows the deal. God's got a plan, salvation's real. Not my good deeds, not yours, nah. One perfect sacrifice fulfills the law. Jesus steps in, the weight's on him. Redemption's locked, we're free from sin. God's number's one, that's the final word. Grace drops the mic, best news you heard. Yo, 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 yo,
You've been listening to Josh Wood's Genesis podcast. Feel free to connect with me on Substack, Instagram, Facebook, X, or Threads. My username is JoshWoodTX on all of the above. Thanks for listening. See you next time.